Well, hey Ceramics 2 students, it's Mrs. New here. Welcome back to Ceramics. Today we're starting a new project, and this project is called the Bust Project, or we could also call it the Clay Head Project. So we are going to be sculpting a clay face, and we call it a bust because it also goes into the neck and the shoulders of our face, our head, okay? We're going to have an emphasis on expression. So what kind of face are you going to have? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be scary? Is it going to be silly? And these are just a couple examples. Now you could make an open head if you wanted to and use this as a vessel for like your pencils, your paintbrushes. I had a plant in this one, so it actually has a drainage hole in the bottom. Here's another one that's got a little plant in it. So you can make it functional or you can make it just decorative. But one thing that all of these have in common is they do have some holes because this head part is a hollow form. And you guys know from making little pinch pot rattles in Ceramics 1 that you have to have a venting hole if you have an enclosed form. So if there's trapped air in here and you don't have a hole, it's going to blow up. So we know that about firing in the kiln. So these are just a couple examples. I'm going to go ahead and set these aside and we're going to get started. So thinking back to Ceramics 1 and our pinching projects, pinch pot projects, this project is also going to start with 2 pinch pots. So think back to the rattle or like the little cut top box or something like that from Ceramics 1. I'm going to start with 2 balls of clay that are the same size. I'm going to make 2 pinch pots that will fit together. So you can see this one's not quite fitting, so I'm going to have to make this opening just a little bit wider here. And this is going to be the head of my bust. So it's really important for this project to maybe do a little sketching, do a little visual research, and again, figure out, are you basing it off of maybe a character? Are you going to do it as a self-portrait? I'm going to go ahead and slip and score my pinch pots together using a fork and some slip. What kind of face, what kind of expression do you want it to have? So as I'm just starting these basic building parts, I'm thinking about all of those things, right? I'm thinking about where it's going to go and kind of what kind of project I want to end up with. But for my building today, I just need to get a hollow form together, a hollow sphere, I guess. And I'm just going to take some of that clay and carefully blend it back and forth. I could also take a coil and lay it into that seam to help, with the blending. And I'm going to go ahead and blend this. All right, and once I get it blended, I do need to think about what kind of style I'm doing. So let's say I'm doing like a Lego head, like a Lego guy. Then I would need it to be, more square. I'm gonna just start with a basic circle. And so I'm gonna use my table and kind of roll it on the table to try to help make it into a round form. I could also just take my hands and kind of pat it like this. And then I can use my fingers like little erasers to fix any dents that might happen. If I get a really big dent, I might need to grab a little bit more clay and actually make a patch. So let me show that to you. I've got some extra clay here. So day 1 is just about getting your sketch done, your concept and idea going. Let's say I have a big dent right there. I could take just a little bit of clay, make sure it's nice and wet, make sure it's thin, and I can make a little patch, okay? Get your concept going, your idea going, create the head form using your pinch pots, and then I'm also gonna make the neck and the shoulders today, because what I want to do is get all of these pieces and parts kind of at the same stage of dryness so that the following class I can work on building the parts of the face. So this is gonna be my head, and now I need to make a neck and shoulders. So for the neck and shoulders, I need to think about proportion. So like how big does the neck and shoulders have to be? Like that's a pretty big piece of clay, pretty big head, I guess, pretty big hollow form there. So I'm gonna grab some clay, and this one is gonna be kind of a modified pinch pot. So instead of starting with a snowball, I'm actually gonna start with an oval or like a potato shape. And I'm gonna make a baked potato. So you know when you like, I don't know, have you ever had like baked potato skins where they, you know, you kind of bake the potatoes, you unstuff them, you take all the yummy stuff out, and then you fill in the potato skins back in with like cheese and sour cream and chives and all that yummy stuff and bacon. Like a twice baked potato, I think they call that. So that's kind of what I'm going for. So notice it's not a ball, but it's more of a potato shape. It's more of an oval shape, but I'm still making a pinch pot, all right? Now, I don't want it to be too thin because this is gonna be the shoulders of my bust, okay? So error on the side of it being a little even too thick than too thin. But I do wanna thin it out a bit, and I'm gonna keep shaping it until I get it about the right size. Now, if I put this on there and I've got these little itty bitty shoulders for a big giant head, then I'm gonna have to adjust. So again, think proportion. This is gonna have to support this, so make sure it's big enough. The next thing I wanna do once I get my twice baked potatoes shaped here is I'm gonna stuff it. And I'm not gonna stuff it with sour cream and cheese and all that stuff. I'm gonna stuff it with some paper towels. So I'm gonna get in here with some paper towels, and this is gonna help support my form, all right? I'm gonna go ahead and stuff my baked potato, and then I'm gonna grab a wear board, and I'm gonna flip my baked potato over and kind of look at it and make sure that things are jiving as far as size goes. That's looking pretty good. Now that's about as far as I would get on day one. And I'm gonna let both of these pieces get a little bit more leather hard in a bag. So I still have to put them in a bag. I don't want them to get bone dry. But before I do that, I think I am gonna take a little wet sponge and maybe do a little smoothing to this baked potato because it's got a lot of marks in it. And then once it hangs out in a bag and gets a little bit more set up, the next class, both of these elements will be a little stiffer, a little firmer, and then I can go ahead and add the head to the shoulders. I'm gonna do that with a coil. So we're gonna pretend, for the sake of the demo, that these hung out in a bag maybe one day. I could also blow dry them with a blow dryer for a few minutes to help speed up the drying process if I wanted to try to get this all done in one day. But sometimes what can happen is if I put the head onto the shoulders and everything's really wet, sometimes this part, the shoulders, won't be able to kind of support the weight of the head. But for the sake of the demo, let's go ahead and attach it. So I'm gonna go ahead and make kind of a fat coil and figure out where this is gonna live, slip and score. And you'll notice when I was showing you the examples that all of these heads have to have the hole, but a really good place to put the hole is in between the shoulders and the neck, I guess, like that. And notice you want a nice big hole. I would say this one that had all these little pinholes, that's not a good idea. You want to do more holes than that and like one bigger hole. So I've got this slipped and scored. I'm going to go ahead and put it on. But if I just leave it like that, it kind of, I don't know, it doesn't quite go together very well. So I'm going to take a fat coil. I'm going to roll it a little bit more on my table. I want it even though it's kind of chubby. So roll it out. Make sure it's going to kind of fit all the way around. And now I'm going to wrap this around kind of like a dog collar, all right? And that'll help to kind of create the neck and also to give a little bit more clay there to work with to be able to blend. So now I'm just going to kind of shape this a little bit. I want him to have kind of I don't want him to have too thick of a neck, you know. He's muscular, but all right, now with wet clay, I can go in here and blend. I could use a little wooden tool or something. And again, I probably would attach the head to the neck on day 2. I would build both pieces, get them ready to go, and then stick them together on day 2. But I'm just kind of trying to rush this so I can show it to you and share it with you. Okay, so I'm going to push all that in. But on day 2, I could kind of stick these 2 elements together. Now, I could poke the hole that goes through the neck and the head today, but I'm probably just going to wait, and I'll make that my last step. But this is how to get your head built, okay, 2 pinch pots. It is a hollow form. So we're making 2 pinch pots. We're making a baked potato shape for the neck and shoulders. We're making sure it's big enough and looks proportionate. We're stuffing that with some paper towel. And then with any luck, you know, this will be able to support that. Now I can go ahead and start to actually look at the shape of this. It depends on what you're creating. If you're creating like a skeleton or maybe like an alien or some kind of other creature, then you might not want this to be, you know, anatomically correct. But if you want it to be anatomically correct, what you'd probably want to do is start to figure out where the chin is going to be. So we all have a chin, okay? Also, we all have cheeks. So maybe start to figure out where the cheeks would be. You might need to kind of figure out where the eyes would be. And you can start to kind of shape this as you go. Now, another way to do that is to actually draw some proportions on the face. So if we make a midline, and then we draw our face into thirds, okay, we know that the eyes would go about here, the mouth is going to go about here, the nose is going to go here, but you might need to add some pieces out as well. So for example, I'm going to add a little bit of a chin. I kind of poked it a little bit, but most of us have a chin that kind of pokes out. So I'm not getting enough here, so I'm going to add a chin. So when you're first starting your actual face part, I want you to think about the structure of, again, if you were a skeleton, if we were looking at a skeleton, right? All of us have a chin that kind of juts out from our face. Our nose is mostly cartilage, so we don't actually see that on a skeleton. Another thing we have, you guys, are a brow bone. So we have these bones up above our eye sockets, and our eye sockets actually go in. So I'm going to press in a little bit here and start to figure out where those brow bones would go, but I'm actually going to add those as well. So I'm just adding a little bit of clay, and all of this is going to get blended in so that it just becomes part of the form. So these aren't really eyebrows yet. This is just the understructure. And there's all different ways to sculpt a face. You can get on YouTube, I'm sure, and look up all different ones, but this is usually how I start. I start with figuring out where my cheekbones are, where my eye sockets are. I kind of add that chin and then start to add the brow bone and push in those eye sockets. So this is just a really rough start, kind of to show you how to begin. Now, you can store this on a board upright like this. You will need to fit it in the cabinet. It's not going to fit in the cubby drawers. Or you could lay it down like I just had it. If you are going to lay it down, what I would suggest is making a pillow. So I know that sounds weird, but you're going to take some paper towel, go ahead and lay it down, but put a little padding, make him a little pillow under here so that his back of his head doesn't get too flat. So either way you store it is fine. You can store it upright, but if it starts to get delicate, you might start adding things like hair and ears and all this stuff. You might want to lay it down, and that's fine too, but just make sure to add a little padding behind his head. So that's how to get started on your bust project. You could probably get this far on day one, or like I said, you might just want to build the shoulders and the head on day one and then set that aside in a bag and come back to it on day two. So I'm going to keep working on mine, and in the next video I'll show you a little bit more about how to add the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the hair, the ears, and all those other bits and pieces. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.